another edition of Let's Talk Trash, the politically incorrect podcast. What a wild week this has been. I know everybody there's a lot of you that watched the debacle or the debate, whichever way you want to call it. Now, here's the sad thing. If you watched the debate, you saw what everybody else has already seen. That he's slow, he has no idea what he's doing, he can't complete a sentence. And then the world just got to watch it. The whole world. China, Russia, Korea, everybody saw that we have a leader who is incapacitated, doesn't have the ability to talk, he has no idea what he's doing, and everybody is watching this debate and wondering, is this new? Well, of course it's not new. The news media and the Democrat Party have been doing everything possible to cover this up. I want you to think for a minute if there was a Republican. What would happen? The news media would be on it nonstop. I mean, one time Trump, while he was president, was walking down a ramp at a football game and kind of lost his balance a little bit, and they went crazy. It was on every news service in the United States that he's not able to function. He's not able to walk. But yet they've continued to cover for this guy. And we go back and we take a look at this debate that took place, and in my opinion, if I were Trump, I wouldn't debate him again. I mean, there's no reason to. The only person that would benefit is Biden, and right now, I mean, if he simply completed a sentence with some sort of an authority, he would do better than last time, so why do it? So hopefully he ends up canceling the last debate and doesn't allow Biden to do this again. Now, a lot of the talk has been whether or not Biden should be removed as a candidate. Now, the Democrats knew all along what his condition was. I think their hope was that in the debate he would just do well enough, and he would end up getting by. They could say, well, he underperformed because he had a cold or what have you. But this was so bad because he has no idea what he's talking about. I mean, one of the best lines of the night, obviously, was when it came to Trump, and Trump said, I have no idea what he's talking about. And I don't think he had any idea either. Because it's true. Biden would get lost about his topics and talk about how he defeated Medicare. And so when I think he was talking about COVID, I don't really actually know what he was talking about. I don't think anybody does. But the fact is that we have a current occupant of the White House who is incapacitated, and the world knows it. If I were China, I think I would say, let's take Taiwan now, because this guy has no clue what he's doing. Now, the president, Trump, he actually spoke up, I don't know if everybody saw this, about a day or two afterwards, and told the world, don't try anything over these next 5 months. Because if you do, you'll have to answer to him. And so hopefully the world will listen, and maybe that'll prevent them from taking any action throughout the rest of the world and attacking anybody. Because and I know that the other leaders of the country, they had 4 years with Trump, and they know that he's not BSing. What was it in Afghanistan? He was speaking to the Taliban leaders. This is why he was president, and he said they had an interpreter, and they were doing a video conference with the leader of the Taliban, and he said, I want to get out of Afghanistan. I want to make sure that it's peaceful and organized as we depart from this country. And if you touch one hair on the head of any American, I will kill you. And then shows him a picture of his house. And the interpreter stopped and didn't say it at first, and Trump said, tell him what I said. Now that's what the rest of the world feared, is that there was a man that was at the helm who wasn't afraid to do anything and would back his words with action. Well, right now we have a man who doesn't have any idea what words are coming out of his mouth. And I know that the Democrats now are calling to replace him. Their goal is to see if they could get somebody else who would attract more attention. Whoever these people are, Michelle Obama, Hillary Clinton again, I'm not sure. But it's going to be difficult, I think, with Biden, because Biden doesn't care about the country. He only cares about his own personal gain. So I suppose if a donor offered him $100 million to step down and not run, I think he would do it, because he doesn't care, like I said, about the country, the people of the country. If he did, he wouldn't have ran in the first place because of how bad he'd gotten. But here they are. The Democrats are trying to figure out a way to replace him. There's 3,900. Biden has 3,900 delegates, and it takes 1,900 delegates to get the nomination to be the Democrat on the general election. So they're currently talking to him. The family is telling him they don't want to. How much of this is true, I don't know. How much of this will happen, it's hard to say. But I do know this. As conservatives, I want you just to think for a minute, if the roles were reversed and we wanted to replace Trump with someone, what would the Democrats do? They would make it almost impossible for this to happen. And I say that because if you think about it, the federal government's not in charge of our elections. Each state is. So they would pressure each state to not allow President Trump to come off the ballot. And that's the case. They would make it so hard and impossible for somebody else to get on there, because they would see blood in the water, just like we see blood in the water with Biden. And I think every Republican-controlled state, which there's 26 of them, should make it impossible for them to replace Biden. Some of them have laws that make it impossible. I think Georgia, theirs has to be done by July 9th. So they have to make a decision before July 9th, or they can't make a replacement on that ballot. The only way they could is if the Secretary of State and the state legislature, and this is from what I understand, would have to make an exception and change the rule in order to let somebody else on the ballot. And if I was in the legislature in that state, I would say absolutely not. You put Biden in this position knowing damn good and well his condition that you've been covering up, and this is your horse. This is who you're going to go with to the general election. You have California, which is August 14th. Now, California's law, I was reading, was that you had to make a change before, or 7 days after the primary. Let me put it this way. 7 days after the primary, even if you die, you can't come off the ballot in California. So their primary is long gone. But it's a Democrat-controlled state. They'll make up their own rules. They'll make changes. There'll probably be no way of preventing them from making that change. But you have Ohio, which is August 7th, that also you'd have to make changes with. Our state in Oklahoma, I would be all for the legislator and the Secretary of State to not make a single change on the general, because their delegates were cast for Biden, and those need to remain. And I would keep it that way, and this way they would have quite a conundrum on what they're going to do. Imagine if they couldn't get 10, 12 states that would not change him out. Then they have to go with him, because they couldn't make a change if there were 10 or 12 states, because there would be an impossibility for whoever the other person would be to win. Oprah, I don't really know. The Democrats have only one goal, and that is to seize power at any cost, no matter what the outcome is for the rest of the country. They don't care. Their goal is to take the House, to take the Senate, and to take the presidency. And currently, the way it's set up right now, President Trump is so far ahead in all these states that he has big coattails. it would look as though we would almost have a 25-seat majority in the House. We would end up with a 10-seat majority in the Senate, and we would have full and complete control over the United States government. And with that being said, the Democrats would expect that their people would be punished like what they've done to us. So that's why they do it at any cost, because they know Trump's not beholden to anybody. He's already rich, so they can't pay him off. He doesn't want anything from them other than the country, and they can't afford to have someone like that. And there are Republicans who can't afford it either. You know, our Republican Party is not any better than the Democrat Party. They're just less worse than the Democrat Party. But there are a lot of those guys that you see them, and they'd like to see somebody else, because the government is a gravy train for the people who are in it. They make enormous amount of money. They have insider trading. I mean, if you think about all these politicians who have multi-million-dollar homes, millions of dollars in the bank, their job pays like $175,000 a year. How's that possible? It's not possible. But apparently when you're with the government, you're going to get insider trading. You're going to get the ability to buy stocks. You're going to get the ability to have favors done where you can get a piece of property for a song, like the Obamas, the Clintons. I mean, the Clintons were broke before they came into the White House, and now they're estimated at $250 million. They've never ran anything other than this country into the ground. So the Democrats' sole focus is the power that they want. Because just like yesterday, Steve Bannon is going to jail because he did not go before the January 6th Congressional Committee, the subpoena that was given. And he believed that his communications with the White House and with the president were protected, which they were up until this happened. Because the president has privilege. He has to have the ability to talk to the people in his cabinet openly without them having to worry about prosecution or him being prosecuted because of the discussions that they have. He has to be able to have open and frank discussions, which is what has always been the case since George Washington. But now they've gone after people in his cabinet, and they're in jail. They're going to jail for 4, 5, 6 months at a time. And these people know that this is going to happen to them, because there isn't a soul on my side that will expect anything less. If we take the White House, I expect these criminals on the Democrat side to be jailed and be in prison. I expect them to be prosecuted. I mean, Merrick Garland is the Attorney General. He didn't show up for his subpoena to Congress, so what should happen? I mean, Steve Bannon just went to prison yesterday for the exact same thing. But he has no privilege. He's just claiming privilege because he doesn't want to go. Well, if the House has enough members to vote on this, they can have the Sergeant of Arms arrest him and hold him in contempt of court and have him go before a judge. And what should happen is to take these matters out of Washington, D.C., come to Oklahoma, go to Texas, go to Georgia, go to the states that are all Republican, and have that state district attorney file charges against Merrick Garland, against these corrupt individuals that are currently in the United States government, because this is affecting all of us. Right now, Washington, D.C., the judges are 98% Democrat. I mean, the city itself, which is disgusting. I mean, it's got beautiful historical places, and it used to be a great place to visit. I even lived there for a period of time. But now it's turned into a homeless camp, and Democrats, like everything they run, turns to shit. This is no different. They've turned this city into a disgusting place, and we need to take it outside of Washington, D.C., where we have a chance. And our state in Oklahoma should be someone who's filing charges today against these individuals, because these acts affect all of us. It's just not in Washington, D.C. But this is where we're putting everything, because this is where the person resides, or this is where the person holds office, is Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is not a state. And a state, Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, Ohio, Florida, any of these people should file charges and take them on, because they are continuing to arrest our people. And this is the battle that we're in. And our party does a horrible job of fighting. All we do is sit around and complain. We don't do anything. We don't, march in the streets. We all sit around and talk about what we would like to have happen without anybody actually doing anything about it. And if we don't do something within the next 5 months, the country's over. It's it. The Democrats have already proven they have no concern for the Constitution. They have no concern for the rule of law. They're prosecuting President Trump on 34 charges that nobody has any idea what the charge is. And they're just basically stating to everyone in this country, if you're a Republican, watch out, because we're going to come and get you next. And a Democrat, hey man, do whatever you want. Burn down a building, we don't care. Beat somebody up, it makes no difference to us, as long as you say it's for the right cause, because you hate Republicans. This is the state of the country that we're living in. And we have to understand the seriousness of this battle that we're currently in. And everybody should go to your state legislature in these states that are Republican controlled and call your representative and say, hey, look, I want you to stand up. If they try to put somebody else on this ballot, I want you to fight to keep Biden on the ballot, because he's going to get destroyed in an election. Because here's the truth too, is Biden's only there because the election was stolen. There's nobody that believes otherwise. I think anymore there are a few Democrats out there who try to hold on to that belief that somehow this moron got 81 million votes, the most votes in American history. And that didn't happen. Everybody knows now that it was stolen. It was a stolen election. Well, this time around, Democrats' biggest problem is you're not going to have as many people who are going to be willing to cheat for you. You've got Democrats who are completely dissatisfied with what your party's doing. So the chance of cheating will be a lot less, and it'll be much more difficult to do. You could try to have a pandemic and call off an election, but that's about as far as you're going to get, because I think this time we're going to know better. Now, will the Democrats cheat if it's Hillary Clinton? Yes, they're going to cheat, and we're going to be up to having to battle that. Which, by the way, talking about cheating in elections, from what I understand, that if you see anything that goes on at a polling place, you're to call the sheriff's department that's responsible for your polling for your district, because they are the ones who oversee and have the most power, not the police department, but the sheriff's department. If you see things taking place that are illegal, that someone's breaking the law, where they show up with a truckload of ballots that come from New York City to Pennsylvania, then a sheriff will be called before anything's done, and those votes wouldn't have gotten counted. There are measures to take that we have to take, and you better be ready to fight. And I mean, sometimes it may be physical if you have to defend this country by protecting our votes. Because in 2020, all we did was just go, wow, what's going on here? You want to throw us out of a building? Okay, well, I guess so. It doesn't seem fair. And then Trump's up 1 million votes, and by 3 o'clock in the morning, he's down by 10,000 votes, and that's what he loses by. This is what's going to happen again. And we have to be prepared to understand what we're willing to do for the cause. If you look at the Supreme Court, just made a decision yesterday that the president, while in office, does have immunity for his actions while he's in office, which has always been understood. Again, if you didn't, you would never go to war. You wouldn't do half the things you had to do, the difficult decisions throughout the world, because you could be prosecuted for them. Would you? No, of course not. So you have to look at the Supreme Court just acknowledging and saying this is the case. Now the Democrats, of course, come out and say, now Trump will be like a king. What everybody forgets is Trump was president for 4 years. We all saw what actually took place. We saw the peace throughout the world. We saw the economy rolling better than it's ever been. Unemployment at its lowest point ever. Everything was affordable. Then you take a look at Biden. Now Biden's more like a king, more like a dictator. The Supreme Court says you can't, on student loans, you can't give them their money back. You can't dissolve those loans that they got, that they chose to take out to go to college. And he said, I don't have to listen to the Supreme Court. Now, does that sound more like a dictator to you? Trump never made those comments. Biden does whatever Biden wants to do, just like opening the borders. It's against the law, but he still does it, and nothing happens to him. I mean, if anybody were going to go to prison for their acts as President of the United States, he would be first on the list. Bill Clinton would be second, and Barack Obama would be third. But nothing has happened to any of these individuals. Now, I've listened to these Democrats, and so one of their measures that they're thinking that they're going to try to do is see around the immunity case and try to see if they can put Trump in jail. I mean, they want Trump assassinated. Plain and simple. They've made this comment, celebrities have made this comments, members of Congress have made this comments, leaders of the Democrat Party have made this comment. They want him assassinated so they can do away with him and ensure their survival of not having somebody who's not beholden to the United States government. And because he's not, that's what they're terrified of, because they know they're going to go to jail. Because I think the people he's going to put in place this time around, he's not going to do the same thing he did with Hillary Clinton, which was, the election's over, let's let this go. When Hillary Clinton should have been in prison for what she did. I hope that he'd learned his lesson, that this time the only thing Democrats understand, or just like the only thing terrorists understand, is fight. If you don't fight, they just keep going. Terrorists were afraid of Trump because he would kill their leaders. He would blow up their bases. He said what he was going to do, and then he would do it. And the Democrats need to be treated in the exact same manner. They need to be held accountable for their actions so that we don't find ourselves with a country that we no longer recognize. I mean, we no longer recognize it now. I mean, you look at the changes that take place on seems like almost a daily basis. Democrats are great at controlling the narrative. We are not. We allow them to make a change and we just go along with it. We don't do anything about it. I mean, the last stupid thing that just happened in California was this Pride Month, which is completely bogus. There shouldn't be a Pride Day. Shouldn't be a Pride Hour. You have a sexual preference. Good for you. Go live your life. We don't need to celebrate it. But they have a this Pride Month, and they go around and what was it? A U-turn sign was over here, and I don't even know. And some guy said, well, this sign, this U-turn, is offensive to us because it was telling people to U-turn out of our area because there's gay people here. Now, he made that up, and he sounded like a moron when he said it. But what did they do? They took down the U-turn sign. And now the entire state of California supposedly is getting rid of their U-turns because somehow it's homophobic for a U-turn. Now, at what point are we going to say you all are just stupid, you're morons, and we're not going to put up with this anymore? And we're going to fight and say no, we're not making any changes. We're not calling people by their pronouns. I don't care, you're a boy, I'll call you a boy. You're a girl, I'll call you a girl. You want to be called something else? Tell somebody else who cares. Because I can promise you one thing, I don't care. I don't care what you think you are. I don't care if you think you're a cat, because there are people who think they're cats. You think you're whatever. It's unimportant to me, and I don't care. Go live your life. Don't interfere with mine. And don't interfere with my children's lives or my grandchildren. I have grandchildren that are, the youngest one's going to be starting really regular school here soon, and I can promise you, that kind of nonsense is not going to happen in his school. Teachers aren't going to sit there and try to mediate, or not even mediate, allow the child to confide in them and not their parents, or to tell their children, hey, listen, you want to be a girl and it's a boy, well, we're going to help you through that transition without your parents knowing about it. That's not your place. When you go to school and you teach, you have one job. If you're a history teacher, you teach history and learn how to do it well. If you're a math teacher, teach them math. Because I can tell you this much. How we're teaching our children now does not work. Our proficiency levels in most of our schools are terrible. And worry about doing that job and quit worrying about whether or not you can influence a child to be something that they're not. A boy who thinks he's a girl is a mental disorder, or vice versa. Or you think you're a cat. You have a mental problem that you need help. I feel sorry for you because you feel this way, but you are not actually born a boy and then you're actually a girl. There aren't any mistakes. You have a mental problem that needs to be addressed. But these things have happened with the Democrats in a short period of time, have been able to change our entire world, have turned it completely upside down. And we've allowed it. Nobody stood up and said, you're not doing this. We're not going to agree to this. Instead, we just let it continue on, continue on, and continue on. And you have stupid leaders that run the state of California, which, they also go into the nicest places and destroy them, Democrats. You look at how beautiful California once was, and they destroy it. I mean, there's McDonald's that are closing in California. Has anybody ever heard of McDonald's closing? But they can't take it anymore. They can't take the hourly wage. They can't take the theft. They can't take the crime, because California has made the decision that, hey, it's free for all. And why anybody would want to live in that? The chaos that they are bringing, they bring it for one reason only. It's for more government control. So government has a solution for the problem that the government created. That's how this works. And the Democrats are great at this because they love control, so they love to create the chaos in order for them to take over control. And as a party, or as American citizens, we should fight against this and stand up and say, we're not going to accept this. So we have 5 months before the election, and I say we do everything in our power to keep Biden from getting off the ticket. That whatever we have, whatever resource we have to stop this, so we use it and abuse it. I don't really care. We don't need to always go, well, we need to follow the rules and we need to make sure that we have decorum and that we behave a certain way when the other party is burning down the village around us. And we still have to try to act like we're polite. We have got to fight fire with a flamethrower and stop allowing this to happen on a daily basis. I mean, another example, the last one probably I'll give for the day is women. Women no longer exist. I mean, Joe Biden actually has the audacity to stand up, and Democrats have the audacity to stand up and say the Republican Party is against women. Everything they do is to harm women. Well, who's the one that said basically you can't describe what a woman is? The Democrat Party. Because anybody can be a woman, apparently, because it's so insignificant. You have destroyed the female group by basically stating, a man can be a woman. Let's put them in your sports. Let's let them break all the records. This is what we've allowed to have happen. And we have no one to blame but ourselves for allowing this without putting up a fight. So you better be able to figure out that you want to fight and this country's worth fighting, or the country's gone. You have 5 months. There's barely anything left of the country we've known. I mean, you don't have free speech anymore. And the Supreme Court just upheld that by basically stating that the government wants to communicate with social media of its concerns and can continue on and take away our free speech. If I say something that a Democrat doesn't like, well, they can have it removed. That's in the United States of America. So you better figure out what you want to do. If you're going to fight or you're not going to fight. The last thing probably I've got is, I ran for office. I talked a little bit about that last week. And, I've thought a lot about this as time has gone on and how disgusting our system really is. The amount of money and the things that you're able to say. Preston Stinson's a liberal Democrat, for all I'm concerned. I know he dresses as a Republican, but he's anything but a Republican. He's clearly against oil and gas, he and his wife, because they fought against it. He's backed by green energy companies, and this guy spent a fortune to win a seat in the House. And this is what's wrong with all politics. I don't mind losing against someone in a fair fight where we're actually speaking facts and we're actually engaging with the people. But he was in his basement next to Joe Biden and making hostage videos with his son so that he could come out and accuse me of all kinds of things to affect the election. But we need to really look at how elections are done in our state and how they're done in this country. Everybody should have an opportunity to run for office. And let's try to get the best people. Maybe I'm not the best person for the seat. I don't have a problem with that either. But I think that because of the way the political system is, who in their right mind wants to do it? I mean, it is very aggravating. It's hard to watch somebody who's a liar spew lies out against you and gets away with it. He can say whatever he wants because that's our political system. And it's pretty sad. It's a sad state. We should expect more. And Republicans are responsible for this. We control the state. And shame on us. Shame on our party for not doing better and expecting more for the people who represent our state. As time goes on, I know grassroots people are trying to make those changes. It's difficult to make. The other side's got all the money in the world, and they have no qualms about spending it and making sure that they get to continue holding power, because we can't even get basic things passed in this state that we should. We get some things done, and then everything else gets put on the back burner, and we have supermajority in every aspect. So that's disappointment. Again, this is Let's Talk Trash, the politically incorrect podcast. You can find me on X, which is where I mostly post, which is @_Let's Talk Trash. If you have any questions, feel free. You can reach me out on social media. And our podcast views have increased, and our the amount of people that are seeing our stuff have increased. I think the video of the sign eclipsed 75,000 people. So that's exciting. You guys, again, hopefully I'll have more guests coming in. I enjoy those podcasts more. I don't really enjoy just me talking because I don't really like listening to myself. So I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks, everybody.
It's a wrap.